Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the recent price action of Bitcoin and the relevant levels and patterns that are going to time our next move to $73,000. We're also going to take a look at the 2-day chart to talk about targets above 73K and the absolutely parabolic altcoin season that is coming up quick on the horizon. Before we get into all that though, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel down below to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday and Saturday, and ring the notification button so you never miss an episode. If you're after even more content, be sure to check out the free Telegram channel over here to get daily Bitcoin updates as well as crypto and economic news. If you're interested in my VIP channel, you can check more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trade setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, as per usual, before we get into any sort of analysis, let's start off by talking about what on earth has happened in the last couple of days or since my last video. So in the last couple of days in general, we've been really stuck below this key level of resistance here at $69,000, right? The actual range itself is from 68.1 to 68.6. And just after my last video, we had just recently broken above that level of resistance and had a nice rally up to $71.5 thousand. Sadly, we did top out here and Bitcoin formed a lower high in this short time frame chart. So after rejecting from $71.5 thousand, the support established at 69 was very short-lived. We fell right back below that level of resistance once again and are now traveling between that key level of resistance at 69K and our key support here at $67,000.
Before we get into any more analysis, guys, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, Bitunix. Bitunix is an emerging cryptocurrency exchange committed to providing you with a secure, convenient, and highly functional trading and investment platform. Available across all countries as a non-KYC exchange, get global access to over 150 trading pairs with minimal fees on both spot and futures contracts. Join today to get $5,500 in sign-up rewards and get 15% off all of your trading fees by signing up using the link in my bio or by using the code 1GG3 when you create your account.
So if we take a look at the recent price action and the new development of our local low and our local high, the first thing we can see is that this local low that we established here after breaking below 69K actually ended up bouncing on this level of support here and formed our third validation point for our bi-weekly or 2-week-long uptrend, right? So the fact that we broke below $69,000, while it is unfortunate, it isn't really any sign of a bearish continuation just yet. We can also see from that local high that we've created over here, that lower high, we can see a formation of a potential downtrend over here. So we have two converging trend lines. We have a 2-week-long uptrend and we have a week-long downtrend over here. It's been here for 6 days. It still requires a third validation point, but we have a potential downtrend. And so what we can see from these two converging trend lines is the formation of a bullish symmetrical triangle formation, right? So if we draw in these trend lines, what we might end up seeing is a bounce from $67,000, a test of a new lower low at $70,000, and then a breakout above the upper trend line over here and a bullish continuation. Now, obviously nothing is certain, so the very first thing we need to look at in terms of that move upwards is what's going to validate a full-on bullish continuation to these upper ranges of resistance over here and our range high here at $72,000. So to do that, we're going to take a look at a new indicator on the channel, and that is called liquidity swings. It is a trading indicator. It's good for trading, and it essentially tells us where the liquidity groups or where the end of liquidity range is on a chart. So moving over to the 1-hour chart, we can see that the end of the liquidity zone here on the top side is naturally at our local high here, so $70,700. Now, that tells us that if we break above the uptrend here, we might still, not the uptrend, if we break above the downtrend here, we might still be in a, technically be in a downtrend until we break above this lower high. And that's natural to conceptualize as, we need to form a new higher high and break above this particular trajectory of forming those lower highs before we can actually confirm a full-on bullish continuation. So in that bullish continuation, the first target that we have is naturally our range high over here, also indicated by the liquidity swings indicator by this, this little red line. We can draw it in like that. And so that is $72,000. So essentially what I'm saying is if we break above this trend line over here, this downtrend, the first thing that we need to establish to confirm a bullish trajectory that's going to take us to $72,000 is a break and a candle close above our lower high here at $70,700. Now, the same thing goes for the downward trajectory, right? If we naturally break above the downtrend or the uptrend over here, we will enter a downtrend. And when that happens, the first thing that's going to confirm that bearish continuation is a break below our current level of support at $70,000 and a break below the downside liquidity zone, right? And that ends at $66,200. In that circumstance, what we'll end up doing is moving to our next base of support here at $65,500. So before we get into that bearish scenario of moving to 65.5, I really quickly want to talk about the timing of the break and the timing of this decision from Bitcoin. So if we take a look at the converging trend lines over here, we can see that the very end or the apex is just about the 4th of June. We can probably take it one day further to the 5th of June, but it's very unlikely that we end up actually touching that apex at the 4th or the 5th of June. But that is the absolute last point in this chart that we will end up deciding whether or not we go up or we break below the uptrend and we go down. Most likely what we'll end up seeing is a decision point sometime within this range over here where Bitcoin starts to travel between I think 3% or 2.5% and around a 1% range over here. I don't see it consolidating any much further than that unless it's a weekend, unless it falls on a weekend. But the 4th of June and the 5th of June is actually a weekday. It's Monday and Tuesday here in Australia. So it's very likely that we end up getting some sort of decision between the 1st of June to the 3rd. So somewhere in the early stages of next month, which is coming up very soon, we're on the 29th today, we will end up breaking through either one of these trend lines. So upon that decision deadline, we have our bullish validations and we have our short time frame bullish targets. Now moving on to the bearish scenario. So naturally the first thing we're going to see is a breakdown of our uptrend over here. Now below the trend line, we have our key support and that's at $67,000. So in the circumstance that we break below our downtrend over here and we establish a new low at $67,000, essentially all we'll be doing is still creating. So we've got a low, we have a higher low over here, and we still have another higher low. What we really need to see is a break below $67,000 to really confirm a bullish continuation, a bearish continuation downwards. And we can see that again on this liquidity indicator right over here, this little green line. So that tells us where the end of the downside liquidity zone is. And breaking below this zone at $66,200, we confirm the breakdown of the formation of higher lows and a potential continuation of our bearish trajectory. Also note, if we zoom out onto the 4-hour time frame just to get a little bit more chart data, that if we move all the way down to $66,200, that liquidity zone I showed you just before, we are still in a high time frame uptrend. So let's just zoom out and draw in that uptrend. We have a high time frame uptrend over here. Ever since $56,000, we have been traveling in that uptrend, and we are yet to form our third validation point. And we can see it lines up perfectly. We have confirmation over here at $66,200, and that's considering it being a pretty rapid drop over here. If we end up getting a less rapid drop, we have a confluence zone at $67,000. So we can just see how important this 67K support really is. So if we break below $67,000, we break below this liquidity zone over here at $66,200, our next bearish target will be our support at $65.5K. Now, if we remember the weekly charts that I've talked about, or if you haven't seen them before, on the weekly chart, we know that $65,000, sorry, I don't know why all the drawings are here. If we move to $65,000, it is the end of this zone of support, right, on this weekly time frame. It is the weekly candle close for our all-time high in 2021, 65K. And breaking below $65,000 suggests that we need to find new macro support, and that is all the way down at $60,000 over here. So essentially, even in the unlikely scenario that we end up having a bearish breakdown of the symmetrical triangle formation, we are still in a macro bullish trajectory, and that's going to hold until we break below $66,200, 67K support, and fall below 65.5. It's only below this level here that we really do have a bearish case scenario on our hands. Now, the breakout here of this pennant formation is anywhere from the end of this month or the start of June to the 4th of June. Now, my next video isn't until the 5th of June, and it's quite unlikely that we, stay in this pattern for that long anyways. So I do quickly want to talk about the potential for a high time frame continuation and a move above our range high and above our all-time high at $73,000. So obviously, we're moving on to the high time frame charts here. When we're talking about continuations of a bullish move above an all-time high, the analysis is always going to be a little bit more speculative, right? Because we're in price discovery. We have no historical price action, no relevant trading ranges. It really is just seeing as you go. Obviously, there's data available to us and analysis available to us, but it's always going to be a little bit more speculative. And the same goes for this chart pattern over here that I've drawn out on the 2-day chart, but I think it's really interesting, and I do really quickly want to cover it before we move on to Bitcoin dominance. So over here on the 2-day chart here, we have a potential formation of a bull flag. Now, I say potential and I say speculative because on the 1-day and 3-day charts, this pattern has been invalidated. We had a breakout above the upper downtrend over here on the 1-day chart and on the 3-day chart, right? We can see that candle closed above the trend line. But on the 2-day chart, the chart pattern is still valid. We actually had a candle close on that 2-day time frame below the trend line over here and actually have 5 points of validation for this chart pattern. So in this bull flag, we can see we've broken out over here at $65,000, and this is our little, symmetrical triangle formation over here. So in that circumstance where we do end up getting that break above our all-time high, or at least above $73,000, I want to talk about the high time frame targets that we might have for this bullish move. So for a bull flag formation, we have two main measured moves. We have the most bullish one, the most dramatic one, and that is the height of the flagpole, right? So this trend line over here from the start of the massive bullish rally to the top of the channel takes us from the breakout point to around $88,000. That is the height of the flagpole over here. And that is the absolute maximum move. We're talking about real high time frames over here. So in that circumstance, when we get that massive break above the symmetrical triangle formation, break above our all-time high, potentially $88,000 is a good target. I don't know, that's very speculative. But the smaller time frame measured move is the depth of the channel. Now that takes us to our next psychological level over here at 75,900, right? We have our next whole number at 75,000, psychological level of resistance. It's also telling us that if we break above this pennant formation and continue in this high time frame bullish pattern, we should continue onwards above our all-time high and to that next level. So then we have some, high time frame levels to be really thinking about, and potentially levels where we might start to see a little bit of resistance. So moving away from Bitcoin analysis and onto Bitcoin dominance and altcoins, one thing I can say for sure is even if Bitcoin does not go up here, altcoins definitely are. Because if we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, we can see that for the very first time in 1.5 years, we have had a weekly candle close below this uptrend over here on Bitcoin dominance. And why is that important for altcoins, you might ask? It's because Bitcoin dominance has a really strong relationship to the way that altcoins perform in relationship to Bitcoin. When we see Bitcoin dominance falling, it means that altcoins are having their really large subsequent rallies. We can see altcoin season started over here, that green box. Take a look at total cryptocurrency market cap or total cryptocurrency market cap of altcoins. That is generally when altcoin seasons start. That's when we start to see absolutely parabolic behavior from altcoins, new all-time highs, 10x, 100x, that kind of behavior. Obviously, not every coin's going to do that. It depends on the market cap and, the actual performance of that coin itself. But this is when we start to see these massive rallies that, kind of make up all the hype that exists around the bull market, right? And we're starting to see the early signs of that over here in Bitcoin dominance. So from this weekly candle close, we know that we are starting to see a shift in the macro trajectory of Bitcoin dominance, and the final target for it at the very bottom or at the top of altcoin season will be down here at 39%. As more and more altcoins are developed and people invest in those coins, naturally there's a potential that we do drop a little bit below 39% over here, but generally if we look at historical behavior of Bitcoin dominance, it is around this level at 39% that we start to see the top of the altcoin season, and we start to see the end of the rallies over here, right? So keep in mind, that's the kind of final target that we're looking at. So moving on to total cryptocurrency market cap, we can also see that we've been in a steady uptrend for altcoins in the last 6 months, right? A lot of them are finally starting to bounce on their yearly support levels or key high time frame support levels, represented by this threshold over here at $648 billion, which is a really good sign. So potentially we're seeing early rallies from meme coins like Peep and Myro, I know, are definitely rallying right now. So that's potentially what we'll see first. So meme coins generally start to rally first. Then we have our mid cap and higher cap altcoins rally later. But we can really see, guys, the start of the altcoin season is really coming in, particularly that drop in Bitcoin dominance. That is a key thing to be looking out for. And a continuation of that downward trajectory is telling us that we are really in for that super extensive parabolic rally for altcoins.
Alrighty guys, that is it for the analysis for today. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel down below. And if you're after even more content, be sure to check out the free Telegram channel for daily Bitcoin analysis as well as crypto and economic news. If you're interested in my VIP channel, you can get more details over here. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trade setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. If you are a trader, sign up down below to Bitunix to get up to $5,500 in sign up rewards and 15% off all of your trading fees. Hope you guys have a really great week, and I will see you next time. Bye!